In this lesson, we'll talk about posing characters. So in ZBrush, we have the ability, once we create our characters, to pose different parts of them. Let's say we have arms or legs, we can actually pose those. So let's take a look, and we'll use this guy as an example. I'm going to, let's say I want to pose the tail a little bit. So I'm going to go down a couple levels, and I want to use rotate. So we're going to treat this kind of like a limb. So before we do this, we need to mask off the areas that we don't want to affect, because if I just draw out the transpose line and rotate it, it's going to rotate the entire thing. So the key to this is topological masking. So what that is, and we turn off our symmetry, what that will allow me to do is control drag down to the end here, and then it'll allow me to kind of mask off those areas in a different way. So this will allow me to mask off areas based on the flow of the topology. Okay, you could also, if you wanted to create your mask in a different way, and if you have the ability, you can come in here and just mask off that way. Okay, we want to create a soft mask, so I'm just clicking to soften it. I want to go ahead and invert it as well, so you want to make sure the unmasked portion is the portion that you want to rotate. Now we'll click from the base where we want to rotate it from out into the limb where we want to rotate. So now all we have to do is come in here and rotate this where we want it. Now if we want to distort it, we can choose move instead of rotate, and then we can kind of move it wherever we want. Okay, rotation will help keep its size and the shape that we want it to have. So if you have an arm or something, control drag down the arm to create that topological mask, and then create your transpose line. It's sort of a temporary joint to pose it. Then you could move down and pose the elbow and so forth. So you could come down here and say you just wanted to pose kind of this area down here. Just making sure. Let's just go ahead and pose or clean that mask. We'll soften it, invert it, so you can move your way up and down. Okay, I'm doing it at a little bit of a lower subdivision level as well. But one thing that you'll run into when you do this is that you don't have the ability to deform multiple objects here. So we've got several subtools. We've got the teeth and the eye. What if we want to create kind of a more interesting and dynamic pose with this? There's not really a way right now to morph or move, rotate, scale, or even just use the move brush on all of these at once. So what we can do is use a cool plugin that comes with ZBrush called Transpose Master. So to use that, I'm going to go ahead and go to the top level here. We'll go to our Z plugin, Transpose Master. So there are some options in here. This one will create layers for each subtool. We'll go ahead and turn that on. That'll create layers that will contain the new sculpted detail that we're going to create. Okay, that means you can turn it back off if you need to. We can preserve existing polygroups. And now there's two buttons up here. We want to hit the one on the left. We want to create a low-res mesh for working with transpose. So we'll go ahead and hit that button. Before we do that, though, I want to turn off these because I only want to transpose this guy. So go back in here. Now it's going to go through this process, and it's going to end you up with a mesh that looks something like that. Okay? And so from this point, you could use any of your transpose functionality. We can also do is, if we want to create kind of an interesting, really dynamic pose, we can turn it off, make sure symmetry's off. We can come in here with a really big brush size and just start to kind of tweak this. So maybe pull this down a little bit, bring this out, maybe pull this down a little, and really create a more dynamic look to it. Okay, we can also come in here and we can sort of mask off this area, go to rotate. Okay, we can start to rotate it around a little bit. And thinking about this, I want to get a nice shot that looks kind of like that, so we can sort of rotate it up. We can pull on this thing to rotate it around. And then we can go back to move and really tweak the look of this and get it kind of exactly where we want. Now we wouldn't necessarily do this if we were going to create a rigged character that's going to be brought into another application. But here what we're doing is creating kind of a finished image, so we can really tweak this. Okay? We can unmask everything, maybe the back, we'll kind of bring the tail over. So we've tweaked all the subtools together, and once we're done, all we have to do is go back into Transpose Master and hit T-Pose to Subtools. So we'll go ahead and hit that, and it's going to transfer all that detail into the high-res meshes. So you can see those high-res meshes moving into the appropriate location. So now you can see I've created a nice dynamic look to this, which is not symmetrical, by going in and using Transpose Master to deal with those subtools all separately, which is cool. And the nice thing is that when we come down to 3D layers, which we'll talk about in the next lesson, we open this up, you can see that if I turn off that 3D layer, it goes back to the base pose, so we haven't lost that base symmetrical pose there. So having that as a layer is nice. Okay, so make sure to check out Transpose, and you can use that to pose your characters. The basics are you can kind of topologically mask out different areas just holding down Control and drawing out your transpose line. And then you can use Move, Scale, and Rotate. And then Transpose Master will allow you to manipulate your multiple subtools together and then bring those back into your high-res meshes so you can make those changes very quickly. Okay, so let's take a look next at layers and talk about what more about what those are and how we can utilize those in our workflow. So we'll talk about that next.